Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another amazing Blue Sky talk. All the guys who are in the back can probably take the seats up front before we start. Thank you. So before we start, I have a quick trivia question for you. Which was the last successful manned mission to the moon? 1972 Apollo. You're not going to get this as a prize, but which Apollo number? 17, that's right. So legend has it that they thought the moon was made of cheese and they found out it wasn't, and so they never sent another man up on moon again. But that's just a legend, it's not true. Anyway, 40 years later, 40 years after the first successful manned mission, another team came together. This team, which comprised of an ex-Air Force engineer, a management guru, a brand expert, a serial entrepreneur, an aerospace engineer, and 70 other engineers, they have come together. They formed a team with one mission. And that mission is to put a privately funded robot on the moon. And this team is none other than Team Indus. And they are the only entry in Google X Prize, Google Lunar X Prize. Before I introduce the team to you, we'll take a look at a short video. And then we'll call Rahul and Shilika on stage.
We leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return.
Today we're challenging private teams from around the world to design and build robotic explorers and race them to the surface of the moon.
To be the first privately funded enterprise to build and land a rover on the moon.
$30 million of money to reinvent how we get to space, how we get to the moon.
These people are trying to demystify this entire concept of a lunar exploration. I think this is exceptional.
I don't care who you are, what you've done before, the first person to make that happen wins.
The primary motivation for us was definitely patriotism. We're doing the aerospace solution, which hopefully is going to land on the moon soon.
The funding required for the moonshot is $35 million.
The prize money on offer is far less than what it is going to cost any team to do this, and that's the challenge. We have the talent, we have the caliber, we have the initiative, and we have the motivation. Let's compete at the world and see if we can win.
And I think when they win, India wins.
So let's hear a Flipkart welcome for Rahul Narayan, who's the founder and tech lead, and Shilika Ravi Shankar, who leads the outreach program for Team Indus. Over to you, Rahul and Shilika.
Thank you, Rajesh. Thank you, Rajesh. Great being here, part of your Blue Sky series. We'll get started.
Sure. So we're struggling very hard with Flipkart to take the title of being the most audacious startup from India. Whether it's audacious, I mean, what we're trying is audacious. Whether it's going to be a brave effort or a foolish one, we'll figure it out next year, not too far from now. But very few startups start with a mission or objective as complex as what we started off, which is to try and build a spacecraft which is capable of landing on the moon. We did this in response to the Google Lunar X Prize. You just saw that in the video, which has a 2-point problem statement. Statement 1 states, before 31st December 2017, that's a revised date, land on the moon, move 500 meters, and send back evidence that you've done so. Statement 2 states you have to do it while you're 90% privately funded. So this is not about going to Department of Science and Technology. This is not about going to the state government and saying, why don't you fund us and we'll attempt to do something. If it doesn't work, we'll submit a paper saying it didn't work. So this is about trying to do it in the commercial domain, do it as a startup, have the same challenges that Flipkart would have had growing up. It, very, very clearly, and we're now almost 5 years into this, a little over 5 years into this. Started off as a loose bunch of a dozen people who said, why don't we try doing this? Started off at the back of an envelope, put some equations together. It felt like it was easy to do, but then the question keeps coming back all the time: why pick such an assignment, such a challenging assignment? Why not pick something else? My reason, and here I would describe my reason as being the Sachin and Binny Bansal why not reason. So the Sachin and Binny Bansal why not reason is why work for Amazon? Why not make your own over here? So same here. Why bother trying to work for a SpaceX or a Lockheed Martin or even Mahindra Aerospace for that matter? Why not build your own? So that was the starting point to say, although it sounds like a very complex problem, why not? Ask the question, why not? Why can't we build a complex spacecraft from scratch and fly it, build it entirely out of India and fly it from here and let it go touchdown on the moon? So that was my starting point.
So we're a group of dreamers, explorers, scientists, all who've come together for this one dream. And while the moon is definitely our mission, I think one of the outcomes of this definitely would be to be able to prove what is thought possible out of India today. We started off, so as Rahul said, we started this as an entrant into the Google Lunar X Prize. We're the only team from India for this prestigious and highly incentivized prize. The prize purse is $30 million. And though our video did show you otherwise, it'll cost any team more than double or more than that to be able to actually compete in this prize. Started off as 33 teams from across the world. We are now 16 teams and we're amongst the top 3. So the other 2 teams are American, one American incubated in Carnegie Mellon and one Israeli team. Earlier last year, Google Lunar X Prize woke up and said, comes 2017, is anyone actually going to the moon? So to be able to check the technical competence of people and where they've reached, they instituted something called a milestone prize, where you had to prove your technology on Earth. So they had a team of 9 jurors from across the world, people from NASA, ESA, experts from across the world who came and validated our technology. So they looked at our risk mitigation strategy and they went and witnessed a lot of vigorous tests done in ISAC, and they awarded us $1 million for our ability to land on the moon. We started off as a group of 4 or 5 people, as Rajesh introduced us, and we're now about 75 engineers. We have 15 retired ISRO scientists who work with us. So we are talking about people who actually built ISRO to the world-class organization it is today. Worked on Aryabhatta, worked on Chandrayaan-1, worked on Mangalyaan. They are the ones who believe in us and work full-time with us right now. We have 24 partner organizations. We could build the best spacecraft, but it still has to get off Earth, which is why we're in the final stages of negotiations with ISRO to build us a dedicated PSLV XL. So how does this work? The PSLV XL will take us into lower Earth orbit, from where our spacecraft takes over and continues its journey to the moon. Okay, before I turn, let me ask, Rajesh asked a couple of questions, let me ask a couple of questions. How many countries have landed on the moon? 1. Who said 1? 3. So did anyone see my slide? No. Which of the 3? Russia, China, anybody else? Anything more? European Union as a full union, okay. 4 countries. Which is the 4th? India landed or sent? Okay, so 3 countries or 4 countries? 3. Anyone else? So I'm thinking because y'all are the, and we've gone and spoken in front of many audiences, trust me. Y'all are the first audience who've come up and said 3. So obviously we're not going to ask you any more questions. And the only audience who got all 3 right. Yes, it is only 3. So if we had, I'm sure we can get chocolates to distribute. We're not giving the rover away. So it is 3. Most people do think that India also landed, but India was an orbital mission. And I usually, and I'm digressing for a second from our presentation, I usually get Japan, Hong Kong, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, all kinds of countries which have landed, which isn't true. So it's, yes, the Americas and the USSR in the 1960s and 70s, and China as of December 2013. And 2017 will be, hopefully, India. So these are superpowers, right? All 3 countries are global superpowers, massive resources deployed towards that one outcome. And then there's us. So let me take you through the tech very quickly. PSLV will take us into lower Earth orbit, from which our spacecraft then disengages and makes the rest of its journey on its own. So it'll go around the Earth, do 2 Earth-bound orbits before it gets into something called a lunar transfer trajectory. At the end of that lunar transfer trajectory, it'll do a propulsive burn at a very specific time to be caught in the moon's orbit. 4 rounds around the moon, 4 selenocentric orbits, before which we slowly get closer and closer, shut the engines and get closer and closer to the moon, and then that's when we start our descent. Descent is the most trickiest part because only 3 countries have done this. A lot of countries maybe have gone around the moon, but only 3 have done this. And for us, it's especially tricky because it's autonomous. The spacecraft is moving so fast that the radio signals between Earth and the spacecraft and back is little over 3 to 5 seconds, and the spacecraft is moving too fast for us to be able to guide it. So the spacecraft should be able to do minimal hazard avoidance, minimal site selection on its own. And that's what makes it very tricky. The takeoff to landing should be about 10 to 12 days. We start around 600 kgs, land we're about 210 kgs, so the rest of all of that is fuel. Once the spacecraft lands, it'll open up and a rover pretty much like this is our 3rd generation rover, a rover pretty much like this will roll out. That rover is the one that has to do the 500 meters on the moon's surface and send back images. And it's moving at this pace is what it's going to move there.
Yes, so if any of you remember from engineering colleges, how many departments in engineering? Quite a few. Other than chemical engineering, for us to build the spacecraft and also to figure out what to do with the rover, is the motor stuck? So what you need to figure out is what can go wrong and try and anticipate those and program for all of those, or plan for all of those, because this is too far away. Even if you could upload a software upgrade, you can't upload a hardware upgrade to it. So building a extra planetary or an extraterrestrial spacecraft includes at least a dozen engineering disciplines. So when we were just 4, 5, 6 people, everybody was juggling 3 departments. Now our smallest department is 2 people. So everything from thermal controls, mechanisms, structures, we have departments inside our team which look after them. This is a photograph of our spacecraft. It's about 2.8 meters in dia. That's sized to the size of the PSLV fairing. It's about 6 feet tall with a high gain antenna on top. It uses 300 watts of power because it's all solar power driven. The batteries are charged up, but then on a 10-day journey, time of flight, you need power to be generated over there. It has about 200 health monitoring sensors. It has telemetry. It uses S-band, X-band. It uses all that you need to use in order to communicate with redundancy in the communication built in itself. A dozen cameras which allow it to do limited hazard avoidance. So take a photograph on the runtime, figure out what's a hazard, Mind you, there are no GPS satellites there, so it needs to look at a photograph and autonomously figure out what's a safe landing spot, and then try to move towards it. Meanwhile, knowing how much fuel it has, and as it burns more fuel, the faster it travels because the mass has come down. So that's how complex it gets. We use what is called as Monte Carlo simulations. So vary the input parameters, 3 or 4 input parameters in steps of 0.01, and then run thousands of those simulations in order to figure out whether or not this will work. So that's a little bit about the spacecraft itself.
I'm not sure if that sounded very easy or very difficult, but either way, I just want to reassure you it is rocket science. So it is going to be difficult.
So I try to keep the acronyms away to not confuse you while we were talking about it. Moving on. And we try to keep the presentation small. If all goes well and you like our second last slide and you help us, you come out in support, we will figure out if we can do a tour for you of our facility so that you can be up close with the lander itself, which is much bigger than the rover. This is a little bit about our journey. Any startup takes a little bit of time to pick up steam. So the first year of self-doubt, followed by the next year, which was 2012, wherein we tried to figure out how to get there. 2013 was trying to figure out what would get us there. 2014 was trying to build the prototype that you saw, including of the rover and the lander, which allowed us to test out some of the theories. You could model it fantastically well inside software, but unless and until you don't build it, you would not know how well will it perform. So that's the lander that the judges saw and awarded us the $1 million that we won from GLXP. 2016 is going to be about building the proto-flight model. So we changed the strategy. Usually build a prototype, then you build a flight, you build a flight spare. We merged 2 of these models to reduce compressed time and money. So this year is going to be about building a proto-flight model. Next year, 2017, is going to be about trying to qualify it, give it all the environmental shocks possible. Does it still work after that? And if it is qualified, hopefully at some point in time in 2017, we'll be on top of a rocket ready to launch for the moon. So
also ready to finally have the Indian tricolor on the moon. Before we move to our next segment, does anyone have any questions?
So we had actually asked employees to submit some questions, so we're going to read them out first.
Oh, okay.
And then we'll open the floor for other questions.
Okay, and they're anonymous, why? I'm just, nobody want to give their name.
Well, there's one R2D2 who's asked a question, so,
all right.
So he's
probably
probably qualified.
And it's an e-cart, okay.
Yeah. So what does the objective of this mission translate into? How does it impact the everyday lives of a layman?
So, that's a classic question, which is why send something in space when we can't feed people here, right? So the simple answer to it is that these are not mutually exclusive problems, and therefore the solutions are not mutually exclusive. Very early on, when ISRO was created, it was created to address social applications. So this is the only space program in the world which started with an application. Other space programs started with trying to stare the other country down or the other superpower down. Likewise here, when aerospace remains the only industry vertical which hasn't been disrupted by startups. Aerospace, healthcare, defense, banking, these are some of the walled gardens, right? So you're not allowed in if you were not born there or you were not, part of that ecosystem to start off with. So for us, disrupting aerospace, something which is capable of solving a lot of different problems, because aerospace is not just something on the moon, it is also your satellite, it's also your DTH, it's also what gives you high definition Google Maps. All that are aerospace solutions, and it is an industry which is now caught amongst a few people. It's a very small group of people who control it. So using this competition, we are throwing our hat in the ring and saying it's possible for a startup to come in here, provide a solution which is cheaper, faster, and hopefully better than what the other players provide. So that's how we believe we will be able to solve regular everyday problems by doing what we're doing.
Thank you. The second question is, how much funding does the team already have, and how much are they short of? Or short
You want to
by?
go the first one? I'll say the second one. You go the first part.
How much funding does the team already have? It would suffice to say, and I'll go into a long answer. Suffice to say, we're very low single-digit millions is what the fund is, the amount of money that we've spent. The long part of the answer is, for anybody else to achieve what we achieved, and I'm sure that now that you're a big company, you'd be contracting the big 5 consulting companies to send you a report on whether or not we should take up initiative. That report would cost you low single-digit millions of dollars. So what we spent to come to where we've come, which is the concept, the system design, the lining up of the suppliers, the interface control documents, all of that would take an American team at least tens of millions of dollars. A NASA, ISRO, ESA, much more higher order of tens of millions of dollars to arrive at where we've arrived at.
How much we short by? So Rahul will give you a global count answer without saying what the actual amounts are. How much are we short by is a lot. Like we were saying in the beginning.
And that's not a global count answer?
No, I am answering it. I am answering it. I'm following it up with at least a statement to say a project like this would cost any team like us, not an American team, it would cost them much more, would cost any team like us in the range of 60 to 70 to 80 million dollars. And Rahul said we raised it in single digits. So you could do the math and see what's the difference. Having said that, there is a second part of our segment in which we'll talk a little bit about how everybody can be part of this.
Thank you. How does a typical work day for Team Indus look like?
So,
oh, you have, okay.
Okay.
Or is it the people, the R&D, or the prototypes, or launching your vehicle to the moon?
We've never earned anything.
No. What burns?
Burns the cash. Burns the cash. Let me get that. So this is my hypothesis. End of the day, everything is a function of the cost of your human capital. So when you, for example, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. So when you say that an MRI machine costs you $1 million, it's not that there are components in there of $1 million. It's the drug discovery example. So you have 10 years of research, and then you have 5 years of trials, and then you have licensing and lawyers to pay, which is what brings up the cost. So it's not the input components, which is one of the reasons why we have been able to do it at such a low cost, which is the amount of research that went into it, the manpower cost that went into it was relatively low for us as compared to, let's say, American team or any team out of Europe. What would burn greater cash for us going forward would obviously be to buy the MRI machine from Siemens, because they've spent a lot of money building that. So the correlation here would be a lot of the components that we're flying on board are space heritage components. So our IMU alone costs us $1 million. The tanks that carry the fuel cost us $2.5 million. So stuff like that. So that is going to burn up a lot of cash when it comes to engineering. What is going to burn up half of the budget that Shilika spoke about is potentially the cost of the launch vehicle itself. So you could engineer it, but to buy that 12-minute ride from Shard to about an 800-kilometer altitude is going to cost us half of the projected budget.
Okay. What does a typical work day for Team Indus look like?
So I'd like to introduce our 3 engineers here. We have Rakshit, Monica, and Harshita here. And Rakshit, why don't you go and answer this one?
Starting with what time you trudge into work.
What time you come in? What time do you ever get out?
Okay, so a typical day would start around 9 o'clock. We have a 5-day work week, strictly only on paper. So yeah, people work throughout the day. It's something that brings out the passion in most of us, is what I've seen. Because a lot of us are from engineering backgrounds. Well, typically what really stands out are the reviews. I mean, I think we have more reviews than the actual amount of work we put in. So we go through reviews. He's
using this thing to give us feedback.
So, but it's really good. The best part of all of this is, I think, the expertise that is backing us. The ISRO scientists, they're like 60, 70-year-old people with graying hair and a really big growing head of brains. So they're just wonderful sources of knowledge. You sit with them. Every minute you sit with them, you end up learning something new, something different. And they always manage to source it from their own experience. And it sort of a confidence that you build being with them. So just yesterday I was having a conversation with one of them. I was like, so what goes into this? Do you think it'll fly? Yeah, sure. What I've made is already flying. It's there. Like, okay, that's good. So yeah, that's how a typical workday looks like.
So when you're growing as an organization, you start defining culture and start talking about things. So we copied the Google 80-20, right? So 80% you work for Google, 20% you work on a hobby project. We said ours is a 80-20-20-20. So the 80% you work on the spacecraft, 20% you work on a potential project that Team Indus could work on in the future. The next 20% you work on any other space mission. So because space engineering, what went wrong, how was it fixed, how did you come about to how did you arrive at a decision for a particular payload? All those things are something that you drive for yourself. The organization can't drive for you, and that's what makes great organizations. So if you could hire the best talent who are self-motivated, that's the only way that such a complex job could be accomplished. Not if there were mandates and I don't know. If I'd be censored for saying this, not if you have mandates and timesheets to fill out, because then they were just sitting on Excel. So 80-20-20-20, but I think we still managed to get a great deal of work done out of folks who work at Team Indus.
That's of course because you work the whole weekend also. You don't get to go home. So we're building a campus where we have beds and we have everything possible that you don't need to go home, ever. Sorry.
Why is space exploration important?
Repeated question.
Yeah,
but let me just take a stab at that. To me personally, it comes out of what I dreamt of as a child, right? So and I'm sure a lot of you here are much younger than me. So Star Trek was playing on Doordarshan when I was growing up, and that was the only sci-fi outlet available. We didn't get too many English movies. And when you look at it and say, wow, is that how the world can be? Wow, is that the work day that you swipe in and you walk and the doors open and you talk to a computer and it gives you answers? This is about 15 years ago. That was wow. I know right now all your phones can give you answers to where is traffic and how do I buy a Valentine's Day gift at the last minute, so on and so forth. But at that time, that was wow. And for me, that was my first introduction to space. And it just felt like the fact that space is infinite, which automatically means there are infinite opportunities, infinite things to be discovered. For me, that felt like, liberating. That's if I had an opportunity to do just that, I would do just that. Did you have an answer for this?
No, I'm good.
No? Anybody here has an answer? Okay.
How has your journey been so far? And what might be your objectives in the future?
This feels like one of our potential VCs are writing some of these questions in the background. I'm not sure that this is coming from your intranet.
What is your business plan?
What is my business plan? It's a $300 billion business industry, and we intend to, take a bite at the lowest 1% of that in the next 5 years. That's the pitch for the VC. Over here, I think amazing journey so far. The first couple of years, understandably, were what I describe as a catch-22 problem. Catch-22 problem is what all startups face, which is I need the money to show the progress. Without showing the progress, I don't have the money, which is why you had your founders delivering books, just like I'm here giving talking about the team. So that's a standard catch-22 with any startup, right? Which is, do you show progress? Where do you invest your resources? And money being just one of the resources. Time is the other one, talent is the other. So that's a classic catch-22 every startup faces. We faced a 222 as in people would ask the question, are you nuts? Right? Other than asking, have you made progress and do you have money? They'd ask the question, are you nuts?
What you're smoking?
I'm sorry?
Or they ask you what you're smoking.
Yeah, I mean that's when you go in front of investment counsel and say, what are you smoking? What do you think we were smoking before you came into the room?
Let you come this far.
So, but other than the first couple of years, I think the support has been amazing. You saw Dr. Kasturi Rangan speak about what he felt Team Indus stands for, or Team Indus can do, and to me, he has been our guru Dronacharya. If we are the outsiders, we're Karan, and you look at you look at Guru Dronacharya from a distance, and you just learn from ISR on how they solve their problems. So it's been an amazing journey. I think everybody we've met has embraced what we're doing. The least that anybody has said is, I don't know whether you can do it or not, but I think somebody from India should do it. So that's the least that I got. Everything else that I got as a response was well beyond that. So amazing journey. I don't think this journey could have played out anywhere else in the world other than India, for where we started from, complete outsiders, street fighters, to where we are today, hopefully with a very, very genuine shot of realizing this mission in less than 6 quarters. I rest it at that.
Thank you. You have a follow-up question to that? Can you wait? We'll ask these last 2 questions and then. So just context, ECART is our logistics division. So
we're all fans of Flipkart. We all know what ECART is.
So would you build the rover for ECART when it starts delivery on the moon?
Can I take this one? So I've had lots of questions put at me from various different places. I had one child who once talked about, would you enable McDonald's on the moon? But the one question which comes each time, and you're a bit young for that one, but each time is, would you take my wife? Because it's a one-way journey. So the answer to that is yes, of course, and the answer to this is yes, of course.
Thank you.
So, you know, those are the applications when we talk about, obviously, self-driving cars, or to talk about Amazon, you know, drone deliveries. I think we're still a generation away, and generation in nowadays is defined as 3 to 5 years away. I think we're at least a generation away when it comes to technology and acceptance of those technologies in common civilian space or civilian life. But can we work with you to optimize your algorithms on how to solve those graph problems, or how to get you always get a left turn? I'm not sure the algorithms will work in Bangalore, but we could definitely work with you, send us a problem statement. We could do it in the 20% time that we ask our people to try and solve a different kind of a problem.
One last question from the Slido. What are the mooncasts going to tell us?
The moon is not made out of cheese, or that's what we believe. Once we touch down, we will be able to figure out we'll be able to ask the question again and probably answer it. The mooncasts, by definition, are very well defined. You know, the color depth, the pixel, you know, the definition is very, very clear on what the organizers want. For us, I think this is going to be an interesting media journey. So this is going to be about ordinary people, hopefully through a very popular online platform. I'm just leaving that in quotes. Through a very popular online platform that they visit very frequently, come in and attempt to control a rover which is on the moon. So for us, what the people could discover, right? So this is not about one person sitting in a mission control, hidden away in Houston or in Bailalu or in some you know, a classified place trying to control a rover. For us, this landing would reveal what it means for a kid, a normal person, to be able to control specialized hardware which is on the moon through an online platform. So that's where I would leave it. Shilka, you have a different way of answering that one? Okay.
That's good.
So you have a domain expertise in space, and you interact with people who have it. So I'll ask
just before that. So my domain expertise is less than 5 years old. Less than 5 years ago, I queried Wikipedia, Google, to say, how do you land on the moon? The first link was Wikipedia. So that's just about the depth of my expertise.
But you interact with people who have a lot of experience.
Yes.
So this one, so it's just a tangential question to this. So so when I think about that, Americans landed in moon in 1960s, and after 50 to 60 years, not many people would have even been able to land a rover on there. And even Americans now are planning for 20 years when they can send a new manned mission to moon. So what's your thought on the manned mission to moon in 1960s? Do you believe in it, or what is it?
Or was it a conspiracy theory?
Met quite a few of them in the last 3 days, 72 hours. So I thought there were multiple parts to your question. So the first, let me answer the the last one that you asked, which is, I truly believe the Americans landed on the moon, and my logic to that was because it was superpowers staring each other down. If there was any doubt, all hell would have broken loose. There was no social media, but all hell would have broken loose in whatever media existed at that point in time. I'm sorry, what was the question before that? 50 years nowhere. Oh, correct. And I was thinking what was the example that I wanted to cite there. So one of our partners, and this is sort of official, sort of not official, is Lockheed Martin. Lockheed Martin is right now contracted by NASA to build the next. They built the previous 2 Mars landers, and they're building the next 2 Mars landers. And we were chatting with them and asked exactly the same question. If you could land a man on the moon 45 years ago, why can't you land a simple rover? Simple as in 12 kgs or 25 kgs or 250 kgs. You decide, it's your definition. The answer, and it was a surprisingly simple answer, and I'm sure a lot of you would identify with it. The surprisingly simple answer is the people who did that are long gone. Documentation can help you just that much, right? So, so the guys who built the Apollo landing modules are long gone, as in gone, you know, the people who actually built it. So that's one part of the answer. The second part of the answer is, once you've done something before, as a startup, you have the liberty of, you know, trying something out, falling flat on your face, lifting yourself up, dusting it yourself, and moving ahead. But as you grow bigger, as NASA grows bigger and bigger and bigger, and they have a $20 billion grant budget a year, they can't afford to fail. So there is no real evidence that they have today that the landing will be 101% successful. They can't afford to a 99.9% success, because if you have that kind of a budget and if you spend that kind of money over multiple years, you really need a 110% success ratio. The example to that is what happens with the Mars rovers. Anybody knows which is the rover which has moved the most on a extraterrestrial body?
Curiosity.
No. Curiosity is the most recent mission. It was Spirit and Opportunity, the smaller rovers of this size, which over 10 years have now moved 11.5 kilometers. They just beat the Lunokhords, which were Russian rovers on the moon. These rovers were designed for design life was 1 year, or at least that was officially stated. They have run for 11 years. Right? So that's what I mean by 110% success. 99.9 is not good enough when you are at that visible estate and you're using stage and you're using public funds. So it's a little bit of the fear. It's a little bit of a question of why, asking the question why, instead of asking the question why not, which is why probably the Americans have not gone there. And this we've heard first person from the people who are actually working on the Mars landers.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
Yeah. So in your slide, you mentioned 100% localization and things that you're trying to do in India. Can you talk about what are the challenges you are facing? How robust is the ecosystem? Are you getting the right parts? Do you actually have to get them from somewhere? How is the ecosystem like? And is there a restriction that you have that you just have to work with Indian components or things like that?
So we don't.
2-3 parts of the question, and I'll probably forget the third part. But let me start with the 100% part. And I read that slide. Very excited to be here, so skipped reading most of that. So what we're saying is this 100% indigenously designed. So by way of design, by way of definition, by way of high-level configuration, by way of detailed design, it's all done in India out of our facility in Jakur. It's going to be 100% indigenously integrated because all the components do not belong in India. In fact, a surprisingly low percentage of components are locally sourced. We have 24 suppliers from Japan, Spain, Italy, UK, US, from where we're sourcing all this equipment. The electronics we source through Singapore, so that also comes into the fray, into the play. But it's going to be 100% indigenously integrated. So the integration we're going to do in our own facility. And qualification is when you test it. And in case you're technically inclined, how do you test a solar panel before it has flown in space, that it's going to survive for 15 years? How do you test it on Earth for 15 years? You look at the shock values, right? The shock is when it goes from extreme heat to complete cold. It's vacuum, so it goes, and there's no atmosphere. So what you do is you look at 15 years and say, my satellite is going to go around, 10 times a day, so 3,650 times a year, and for 10 years, so 36,500 times, it has to tolerate that shock. So you give that shock 36,000 times to your solar panel, to the same solar panel which is going to fly, and if it survives and still gives you a good performance, you say it's tested for space. So all that is what we're going to do here with our spacecraft and rover in India. What were the challenges that we faced? These are very expensive facilities. Very few people have them. So the prototype, the photograph that you saw with the Prime Minister, that lander, it costed us 40 lakhs to build it. The material, the job work, the transportation, all of that costed us 40 lakhs. We had to do a vibration test because it's 600 kilograms as launch. So we had to put it onto what is called as a 16-ton shaker. It vibrates it and simulates a 10G load on a 600 kilogram spacecraft that we had. The test itself costed us 47 lakhs. So, so that's been one of our challenges. I'm not sure I've really revealed that figure to our team either, because they'd be shocked.
It's a good for us to
know. The other part of the story is when the spacecraft was standing outside the gates of ISAC, we didn't have the 47 lakhs in the bank. It came in the next morning. So we were raising funds at that time. So the other part is obviously because these are specialized facilities. When you walk into Antariksh and you say, we want to hire a 16-ton shaker, they say, why? We want to test a spacecraft which is 600 kgs. Where did you build one? We built it in our garage. So you don't build spacecrafts in the garage. So the whole challenge of credibility of who you are, why should we give you the facility? And although Antariksh and ISR have been great because we've got a whole bunch of their folks who work with us and know what we're doing. But we faced a lot of those problems when we went to other testing facilities. But now a lot of that has been mitigated as we continue to build, get more support, talk more about ourselves, and do pitches like this.
Yeah, just before we ask any questions, sorry, is that a Team Indus sticker on your laptop? Yeah, wow, I was just wondering, it looked from far, Team Indus. You've been distributing stickers, is it? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, I'm curious about the soft computing part of it. The artificial intelligence or vision, converting that vision data into saying that is an obstacle. I mean, at least that we are building. Are the algorithms ours?
Correct. So quite like the test facility was expensive, buying an operating system called VxWorks, on which the Curiosity missions work. It's an operating system that runs that rover. The software itself is going to cost us $500,000. And we know it's a flavor of Linux. It's just that it has heritage and NASA uses therefore $500,000. So very clearly we started everything with first principles. If you tried to buy stuff and put them together, it would never work. So the limited amount, so classic Linux version, OpenCV, Python programming, do it on a small ARM board because that's the chip that would be doing the processing on the spacecraft itself. That's where we started, and that's how we continuously built it. So I mean, I'd stop shy of calling it AI, but yes, it looks at a terrain that it has never seen before, compares it with a frame that it caught, captured a little bit, 3 seconds before, does a differential, does a 3D map, looking at that terrain, looking at the sun inclination, computes whether is that a depression or is that a rock, and says the density of dangerous things in this quadrant is lower, so let me aim for that. It just does that. This engineering is all about simplifying, so we don't do any cool, funky, sexy algorithms there. It's very, very straightforward. Answer this question. If not, go to this question. Answer this, answer this, answer this. That's it.
So
yeah, some of these algorithms, they go through strict code walkthrough of every line, and validation of those algorithms in terms that there is an obstacle or not.
Oh, the restriction part, correct. So the restriction question, and I'm not sure how public this event is. So the restriction question is a classification question. So we would have been restricted if we were building satellites. We'd have needed permissions 1 to 122, all those permissions. We just classified as a spacecraft building company, which comes under no category. So we didn't need any licenses. We're sitting in our room, so merrily, creating a spacecraft, not a satellite.
So maybe we could take the rest of the questions after that. But just before we move, I'd just like to share one small bit of trivia. We were at an event yesterday and someone asked us this question, and it's an interesting trivia, so I thought I'd share it. They asked us, so what happens to your spacecraft? Once it lands on the moon, then what happens to it? And I remember hearing this, much later in Team Indus, that when we joined the competition, we had a whole stack of legal documents to sign to say you won't land anywhere near a NASA landing, right?
Yes.
And so why? Because according to international maritime law, the area around their landing, 12-kilometer radius or diameter, becomes American soil. So going by that logic, when we land on the moon, the 12-kilometer diameter, let's start inhabiting the moon then. Okay, so that's where it'll be, Indian soil.
Help us grab.
So we're going to
help us grab some more land.
Get some land on the moon. We're going to see a quick video and then we'll move to our next segment in 2 seconds.
We have another video? Okay.
Today we're challenging private teams from around the world to design and build robotic explorers and race them to the surface of the moon. So now we're going to talk about what is million to moon. Can we move back to the PPT? So in my mind, Team Indus is a celebration of a lot of great things that come out of India, be it the audacious goal, the can-do entrepreneurial spirit, or a melting pot where people from all walks of life come together. Rahul talked about Dr. Kasturi Rangan earlier. For those of you who don't know, he was the ex-chairman of ISRO, Rajya Sabha member. So we have the privilege of his technical expertise and experience guiding us and interacting with the enthusiasm of a 13-year-old who is an intern with us. And all of us fit in between. So Team Indus is about common people, regular people coming together, aspiring for something that is completely audacious and trying to build a world-beating organization, a lot like what Flipkart did. Build a world-beating organization, whether it was in terms of the ambition, the valuation, or the market reach that it had. So that's what we're trying to do. And because we're doing something which in some way resonates with every Indian, right? Whether you're looking at putting the tricolor on the moon, whether you're united by the ambition of a best of technology outcome coming from India, we think this is something that belongs to everybody out there. So we've come up with mechanisms. Now that we're gearing up to land this tricolor on the moon, we've come up with mechanisms on how can people be a part of that. And that's what we saw just now. That's one of our campaigns. It's called Million to Moon, where we want millions of people, well, not millions, but more than 1 million of numbers of people to get their names inscribed on a cube, which will go aboard our spacecraft and be there for an eternity. Let me just take you through that.
Great. So, so the ticket size here is, and we're talking to an e-commerce company, so you understand ticket size. So the stock keeping unit here is a single name. And each name costs 500 rupees. In return for 500 rupees, our terms of sales say the following. So it says, for your 500 rupees, I shall write your name on a cube the size of 3 meters by 3 meters, which hangs outside my office in Bangalore. You can come verify that. And on a best effort basis, a miniaturized version of that, a 3-inch by 3-inch version of that, will fly on top of our spacecraft to the moon. So when it says your name right here, those are the selenocentric coordinates. So that's a landing site on the moon. And those are the terrestrial coordinates of our office where this cube will be lying. We're in the process of trying to figure out if we can use India's most popular, most famous destination people use for shopping to see if we can sell this stock keeping unit also. Moving on to the next slide. What you saw in the short clip is how you fit so many millions, how do you fit 1 million plus names on one single cube. Why a cube? Because it has 6 faces. We're opening up the first face. The smallest unit is 1 name. The next larger unit is a adda, which is, you know, your buddies from your wing of the college hostel, or your buddies from school, or your buddies in your lane of the of where you live, or maybe just your small family, right? So adda comprises today of 20 names. I'm not sure, we changed it on the slide. So today adda comprises of 20 names. So you could buy an adda, put your name around it, pay us 10,000 rupees as for that, and put a circle around it saying, you know, Dilip's friends, and put 20 names in it. Or you could be a little more ambitious. For example, when we did the same presentation at InMobi, it was a 12-minute presentation, and there were 200 people in the room, and we sold 2 constellations over there. A constellation is a collection of 18 addas. So, you know, 18, each adda is 20, so 360 names is what we get in one constellation, and you could put a square around that saying the geeky folks at Flipkart. We'll let you pick what that is. I'm not very creative with names here. So I guess that's it. So we could be creative about how you could be part of this. Every person gets to, there is no premium attached here, there is no discount attached to buying more. Every name slot is going to cost 500 rupees. And we welcome you to contribute to the Flipkart constellations, quadrant or sector, or the entire face, if that be.
Sorry, this was Rahul getting very emotional. I saw Sachin's face, entire face, all right. That's 2,61,000 names something.
That's 2,62,360 names into 500 rupees.
Which so is not much, which is okay. Yeah.
Each face.
Each face. We'll give you one face.
So moving on. So if all this comes together, if our, you know, kids manage to continue putting in the 60-20-20 time, we find the support, we find the investors, the backers, the folks inside the government who are helping us out. If we find all of this at the right time, on this date, next year, you will be able to watch a launch on TV and say, I made that happen. Not India sent something to Mars or Moon. I made that happen, no matter how small that step be. But this is going to be about what you enabled as part of a journey of landing the tricolor on the moon. So with me together, thank you. Hum honge kamyab.
Sachin, would you like to come and say something?
I think this is the second time I'm meeting the team, and every time I get basically dazzled by the audacity of the whole thing. It's just, I mean, it's just crazy. There's no other way to describe what is being attempted here. I think it's I saw the garage, and it is truly a garage, and it is, and I think the size of this, you should imagine the size of what is happening over here. If a government has to attempt, which has been attempted in the past, it takes billions of dollars to do what is happening. If this happens, we are going to change when this happens. This is on 21st of September. We are going to see a paradigm shift in how space is getting explored, and the cost of that is going to come down significantly for the first time, and that is going to happen because of the vision of the prize itself, which is to bring private companies into the space, which will make it more and more efficient, because private companies are much better at doing these things than governments, and this is the time when this will start. I think again, they say that their investors have to smoke or drink something before they invest, but...
Can I take you out for a drink? Okay, just checking.
No, but I was not drunk when I decided to invest in Team Indus, and I am an investor, and so is Binny, and we are very proud to be a part of this journey. And
so I wasn't sure I could announce that.
Yeah,
so
we didn't. Okay.
I wasn't sure I could announce that without your permission. So. Absolutely.
So that's, I think. But here's my $500 actually.
We're not accepting
so we're not
COD
accepting first cash.
because COD is very expensive.
No cash.
And then
COD is very expensive. I'm sure everyone on Flipkart
we
knows
don't
that.
accept 500 either.
And of course, I'll be sending more after talking to my family and who wants to send their names to them. I think absolutely. Yes. I think it's tremendous. I am looking forward to 21st September.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So
Thank you,
what we're going to do is we're going to pass around a few chits where you can make a pledge to say whether you'd like to send one, not one like Sachin did, but 20, 30, how many names would you like to do? Please feel free to write 1, 2 also. Just let us know how many names you'd like to send, and then we'll collect them. Mandy through HR will collect them, and they'll send it to us, and then we'll start communicating with you directly. When people send their names to the moon, they'll start getting part of the project in terms of we'll give you constant updates, you'll get a certificate of pride from us, you'll get a newsletter. So there are a lot of ways for you to stay updated about our project constantly. We'd love to do, maybe not a face, but we'd love to do at least a quadrant or a sector of just Flipkart, dedicated to Flipkart employees, Flipsters. And we'll say Flipsters.
Flipsters quadrant.
So it's
quadrant?
Flipsters
quadrant.
Quadrant.
Is 60,000.
Okay. All right. 60,000. Rahul saying Flipsters quadrant. We need some chits this side.
Is there any way we can buy T-shirts or something?
So let me say that while Sachin is still sitting here. No. Let me bring that up while Sachin is still sitting here. So with what we're doing with most corporates is, and I think Sachin didn't actually say that. Neera said that you would co-match one name for everybody. So if you write one name, Flipkart will co-match and send the name of your family, your friends, your loved ones. We have another deal with corporates that if you co-match twice, then we give you a free T-shirt.
Sachin, I'm sorry I asked that question.
No, but happy to answer any questions from the previous segment and this segment.
And we're happy to collect the chits back also. So if you'd like to just sign the chits, fill them in, and then we'll collect them back from you. In the meantime, if anyone has any questions. Can we also move the rover in the meantime?
Asking for rover name suggestion.
Yes, we
Thank
also
you so much.
have...
Thanks. I'm sorry, I didn't...
Thanks so much, Sachin.
You look so different.
Thanks.
From the photographs. Thanks.
Our rover is called ECA today, a name which we're not going to be living with for too long. So we're happy to have someone come up with a name. If we like your name, if we choose your name, we would find a prize of some sort, acknowledgement, recognition, something.
T-shirt.
T-shirt seems very small, but T-shirt for sure. But if you come up with a great name, we'd love to put that up on our website and acknowledge you for having a good name. We've had really strange names in the past, so be careful with what you send us.
So we are going to keep a laptop somewhere here. You can just enter your suggestions right now. We'll also probably send you an email.
And Monica, if you want to start collecting the chits back, anybody who's written pens, can someone please circulate pens? Anybody who's written on their chits, please.
We have a few pens which are being circulated. We'll get it to you.
If you can circulate it. If you want photographs with the rover, we charge. I'm trying to come up with a figure. In dollars? In dollars, how much?
50, 100?
We'll send it to your Swiss
That's
account.
Flipkart, she says $100. But no, please feel free, come take photographs with the rover. We're happy to tag us on Facebook when you do, or Twitter if you do post photographs of the rover. Anybody has any more questions? Yes, please.
So how do you decide the exact coordinate we are going to land on the moon, and about the atmosphere that's out on the moon, the sand and everything? I mean, do you have the data available with you?
Yeah, so, and you know, leading out from the question about have the Americans gone back, so Americans have constantly been sending orbiting missions. One of the recent orbiting missions was called LRO, Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. That gave a lot of data from geospatial data. So the resolution is low. I think it's 2 meters per pixel. So therefore you can't specifically see a rock there, but you can do a reasonable amount of mapping. So as part of our design of how to get there and when do you touch down and so on and so forth, we've identified a slice which is about 9 kilometers by 45 kilometers. The coordinates that you see up there is the dot center of that. So when you land, you'll probably be a little bit off here and there, but it's in the order of magnitude of the coordinate that we published.
Great.
Sorry to interrupt you, but all the guys who are leaving, there's tea and snacks outside, so please don't miss that.
And please do give in your chits before you leave. I think there's some pens getting circulated.
Yeah. So there was a question over there. Yes. What is the name that's going to go on the cube? Is it the first name, or is it, where do we specify that?
So your first and your second name will go on the cube. If you opt for more than one name, if you say 2 names, 5 names, 6 names, you will get an email from Million to Moon, which will ask all the details. So even if you write your name right now, but you want to send someone else's name, we write back to you and you'll get something that says, please tell us the specific names that you want to send. We don't do funny faces or images or special characters, but we can take Pinky, Bintu, anything you want us to send. We're fine with that.
So there are, correct, so this is one of the, sorry.
Sure, no, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, so this is, as of right now, there are many ways of contributing to a startup, and you yourself have seen the evolution here. So one is, if you know of people if you know great talent, please refer them to us. That's one way of contributing to the mission. The second is obviously, if you help spread the word, that on its own is a contribution, right? So the more people who follow us, the more are our chances that we come across somebody who can do certain things better than our current team, introduce us to potential sponsors, introduce us to potential investors, so on and so forth. The third way that we've arrived at is this, which makes it very small pieces, very, very democratic in nature, and depending on how big a slice you want to take, you can take that bigger slice. The fourth and fifth are obviously investments that can be made, and fifth is sponsorships directly, right? So ability for brands to be a sponsor, whereby potentially there are logos that can fly, if not on the spacecraft, then off the feed that we send from there. So those are other mechanisms, but this is the easiest way in which you could work, in which you can support. You can obviously yourself work. I don't know if I can say that here inside Flipkart. We can yourself apply to work, probably through Flipkart as internship, and or refer people who want to work there. Always on the lookout for talent.
So internal comms will be sending a mail soon. You can reply to that also. Sure. And I've been informed that the $500 will be deducted directly from your salary post-tax. So you don't even have to worry about it. Or how many ever names you sign up for.
Let's not say 500. How many ever names?
How many ever names you sign up for? 500 each.
Why not, Neera? Yes, please. Yes. Yeah. Can I just borrow that pen?
Has any of the...
There's a pen there.
Yeah. So has anyone tried sending a drone to the moon rather than a rover? Or does that work better?
Moon does not have an atmosphere, because and that's the difference between Mars and Moon. When you have atmosphere, you have something else that can help you retard or manage yourself. The moon is complete vacuum. Therefore, a drone is essentially a projectile. So one of the simplest versions of the rover is you put it on a spring, you pull it back. Because it is 1/6 gravity, what a projectile that will go 100 meters on Earth would go almost 600 meters on the moon. So that's the equivalent of a drone, which would actually be a projectile or a missile, whatever you want to call it.
So when you complete the first 500 meters on the moon, what happens to the rover? What will it be doing after that? Do you have any have you extrapolated its journey or what?
Great. So that was one of the things that did not come out because our detailed tech slide wasn't there. Our life on the moon is just one lunar day, which is 14 Earth days. We expect to complete the 500 meters in the first 3 days. And that's how fast we can go. Beyond that, as I was talking about, possibility of common people controlling a rover, sending a message, moving the mast and taking a photograph of a specific feature. These are all things which will be would be planned as part of the public outreach. So we do not really have massive scientific experiments to carry out over there. It's more of a media mission, and the more we open it up, the more interesting we make it, solve a puzzle, do something, and then you get a time slice to be able to, operate the rover or take a photograph.
Just curious why the rover speed is so low. I mean, is it for power constraints or some other?
You have no idea when I started from Jakura and how long it took me on Bangalore roads. I was stuck on that underpass for 20 minutes and I didn't make it on time. So, I mean, with roads itself, your speed can at times be slow, but when there is no terrain, right? So there is no road over there. It is a sandy terrain, so there's just so fast that you can go. And then you don't want to go fast because the terrain is not mapped. So you could have the equivalent of a landmine, as in you hit a rock and you break a fin or a blade, in which case you probably get stuck there. You don't have anybody to get you unstuck. So typically the speeds will be slow. The nominal speed, the maximum speed is 3 centimeters per second. The nominal operating speed will be 1 centimeter per second. And there also we'll stop after every 1 meter, take a look around. Is it safe? Will I start sinking? Learn from what happened now, all of that. So it is very, very slow. So the fastest we can do 500 meters, I think, is 29 hours in one of our simulations. But the nominal will be about 72 hours, 3 Earth days to finish it. Great.
So I see that you have pitched this idea to multiple people, like hiring talented people or getting investors onboarded. So what has been your USP, according to you, for all the segment of groups whom you have pitched this idea to? I mean, why have they invested in you, or why have they joined you? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I
What's the USP of pitching? How do you pitch your story to people, and why do they buy in?
What do you think compelled them to join you or invest in you?
So I think anyone who's come, wanted to support us or been a part of it even as an investor, including Sachin, just buys into the entire audacity of the mission. I think it's about something this great coming out of India, getting inspired by the fact that we are attempting to do, it's not just the moon. We could have been doing anything that was so audacious. So it's not necessarily the moon, but it is the whole thing, like I said, the audaciousness of the dream, the can-do spirit of the kind of people we have, and the kind of people who've come together to make this dream. So they're buying into a concept of what new India would be, and how tomorrow absolutely anybody could stand up without having money in their pockets or their expertise and still aim to do something so big and be successful. So there is no end business plan they see. They don't know whether we'll be successful or not, and there's potential. They're just buying into a dream and saying, this is something I would like to achieve for the country.
And pretty much, a lot of startups start that way, because you don't start by saying, I'm going to be a $15 billion company. You start by saying, can I solve a small problem, go to the next level, then solve the next problem, go to the next level. So the answer is absolutely correct. Very, very few people we've met who've said, don't believe in what you're doing or what you're trying to do. Almost everybody has come out and said, we would invest not necessarily being in the equity investment sense. We would invest in you for the effort, not for the outcome. So the fact that this effort has happened, it has come this far and can go the distance, we've had a lot of people come up and
actually, it's been an amazing journey for us. I know somebody asked that question, but every walk of life, every stage of our journey, we found people just coming out of nowhere and saying, we'd like to support you in some way. It's really heartening to know that there are so many people out there who believe in the ideal of the whole thing, instead of just looking at it from a very cynical commercial, class. It's been an amazing journey. We've had people walk in with all kinds of support. We had met Neera and she was fully supportive. They're just people from everywhere who come in. It's been, I think it's the passion and the honesty of the goal which also attracts people.
Once they succeed, the whole belief of the whole nation will change.
I think so too, yes. Of what can be achieved. Hopefully it will inspire a whole generation of people to think that you can do absolutely anything that you put your mind to. Hard work, surely, but put your mind to. Right.
No. The way rockets work is that it's a custom thing, right? So it's not an airline seat that anybody can sit on it. It's a custom thing. It has to take you to a custom orbit, and your spacecraft is designed to start from there and go the distance. For me, starting off, I didn't ever consider SpaceX because although SpaceX had just about started the first NASA contract at that time, I think if it can be design integrated, qualified out of India, and India already has a space program, why go to anybody else? Cheaper or not cheaper, I think that's a secondary question. But if it can all be done completely in-house, and if it can all be done inside Bangalore, other than the frustrating traffic, you don't pay for airline tickets. I mean, that's a huge saving. Otherwise, we'll be airlines and visas and visas rejected, and we'll be going through all of that all the time.
But having said that, it's an Indian mission, and ISRO has proved itself time and again for being up there in the global stage of space, so it would not make sense to go anywhere else. Anything else? We left. This is yours, Rahul. I have no personal views on Mars One.
I'm looking for a Flipkart analogy, but if I were to ask Sachin his personal views on...
Monica's prompting you.
No comment. I think... and it's one of those things about, and tech guys would know whether once you delivered something, then you would love to classify it as a bug or a feature. So likewise, I think Mars One, to a great extent, is raising the awareness of people and the fact that such a thing is even possible, right? The reason why I gave you the bug and the example thing was, I expect them to come out after a couple of years saying, our end objective was to raise the awareness, not to send people one way to the moon, to Mars, I'm sorry. And in that manner of speaking, they are doing something for the ecosystem, right? So today Amazon might be competition for you, but the fact that people were looking at e-commerce and buying from Amazon in 2007 was a great enabler for Flipkart to start in 2007. So likewise here, I think part of the overall ecosystem, as long as they don't make a complete mess out of it, I think they will end up enabling the ecosystem itself and the belief that humans are a multi-planetary species, not just constrained, tied down to Earth.
Thank you so much, Rahul,
Thank
Shilika,
you.
and the rest of the Team Indus team.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure to
great
have you here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.